Hello! So today I am back, not with a reaction video this time, but with my now, I guess, annual album ranking video. I've done this for the past couple of years and I really enjoyed it. So here I am doing it for the third year in a row. This year, like last year, my ranking is including K-pop and non-K-pop albums, and my rankings are done the same way, which, as a reminder, if you've not watched the other ones, it's basically all done by my memory, which is not so great. But there's no like concrete numbers helping me doing my rankings. I tried last year to use Spotify because I used Spotify quite a bit last year, but this year I couldn't do that. I stopped using Spotify for a huge chunk of the year because I was using Apple Music over the summer, particularly to help Stray Kids on Kingdom at first, and then I just kept using my free trial. And I also used my mom's account, so looking at my own account was not going to help me with my rankings this year. So how I've done it is, again, kind of the same as before, which is how much I remember listening to each album in full or not, because there were so many albums this year where I just would listen to like half of the songs because those were the ones that I really loved upon hearing them the first time, or just like a few songs that I really liked, and I would stick with those and like run them into the ground with how much I was listening to them, and I would just leave everything else and like not listen to them. But then also how frequently I listen to each album, or like each chunk of an album, I guess, and also how much I watched the music videos, especially if there's, you know, the title track music videos, which for K-pop there is. I will say yesterday I was still rearranging my list because I was not sure, but now we're filming the video, it's set in stone, this is how it's gonna be. I would say that there are a lot of familiar faces from previous years, but there's also quite a few new faces this year on my list, but I also feel like my number one will be quite obvious and easy to guess, so feel free to guess in the comments what you think my number one is. I am very curious to know what all of your favorite albums are, so please let me know down in the comments. I really want to see what other people were super into this year, and let's get into the video. Alright, so my number 10 spot is Wood's Only Lovers Left album, which he released at some point in October. I think I've said this in basically every reaction video that I've ever done for him since I've gotten into him, but I just love his voice so much, and he can just do so much with his voice. And I've just loved everything pretty much that he's released since I got into him last year. And I think I've also said this in every reaction video, but the prominence of guitar in his music, in some songs more than others, is just my favorite thing ever. It just sounds so good, and it always makes me excited to see, like, even if it's like a different kind of style or sound, like there's always a guitar somewhere in there, and it really makes me happy that it's so prominent for him. So I very much appreciate that. And there was definitely quite a bit of that on this album. There's one song on this album that honestly makes me want to cry every time I hear it because I think it's so good and the guitar is just so pleasing, and that would be Chaser. It's kind of embarrassing to admit that I want to cry because the song is good, but here we are. I did it with another song this year, so I would say that there is no song on this album that I don't like, but I definitely did not listen to this whole album after the first few run-throughs of the whole thing, and I was very much gravitating towards half of the songs, which were Waiting, the title track, Chaser, and Kiss of Fire, which also happened to have live videos for them, so I found myself always reaching for those videos and listening to those songs that way, because they were just so good. I love his voice, as I said, and him live is incredible. Like, he's amazing. So if you don't like Woods, get into him, like right now. So that's kind of the reason why this album is pretty far down on the list, is because I was really only listening to half of the songs. I love the other songs as well, but I just wasn't reaching for them as much. So that is my number 10. In ninth place would be Seventeen's Attacca mini album, and it feels very weird to me that this album is so far down on this list, but I think that if it were released sooner than October, it would definitely be higher. Maybe not really high, like close to number 1, but higher than 9, I would say. I was debating not even putting this on the list because I wasn't sure if I even should, with some of the things that I'm going to say later, but I loved Rock With You so much that it would honestly be a crime if I like didn't have this somewhere on this list. So here it is at number 9. As I said, I was very excited about Rock With You, and just the whole rock concept before it even came out was so exciting to me, because I listened to a lot of like pop punk rock style music outside of K-pop. I kind of grew up listening to that, so the fact that more K-pop artists are kind of doing that sort of thing is very exciting to me. And obviously when I heard Rock With You and watched the music video, I lost my mind pretty much, and you can go back and watch that if you haven't. I again wanted to cry when I heard it because I was so excited and I thought the song was so good. And like I said in that video that I wasn't going to take criticism about this song well, and I said it as a joke, but I saw some people saying that they didn't like it, and I was just like, no, we're not gonna look at that. Like, I just could not let anything destroy the joy that I felt hearing that song. And like to this day I still get that excited to hear the song, and like I just still think it's so good. So I just love this song so much. I'm so glad that they did it. It's definitely one of my favorite songs of the year, and definitely one of my favorite music videos as well. I've been watching it obsessively ever since it came out. Like I watch it pretty much every day just because it's so good. Everything about it looks so nice. As for the album itself, I would say that I streamed it pretty heavily for the first 2 or 3 weeks that it was out, like when it first came out, and I was streaming it pretty heavily back to back with songs from my number 8 album. But after that 2 to 3 week period, I definitely found myself leaving half of the album in the dust like I did with Wood's album, and I was really only reaching for the super upbeat songs, which to me are Rock With You, Crush, and 2-1. Oh my goodness. And they also released performance videos for all of those, and I was and still am living for them. I also watch those pretty much every single day, because particularly for Rock With You's live band version, it sounds even more like a pop punk rock song than the original, I guess, which makes me like it even more. And it's just like so much, like it just makes it better for me. Even though I only listen to those 3 songs, or I like reach for those ones the most, I still like the other ones. I just don't listen to them as often. So that's also kind of why this one is a little bit far back on the list. At number 8 is my first non-K-pop album of this ranking, which is Grayscale's Umbra album. This came out in August, I believe, and I did not listen to it until October, and I very much regret that. And I honestly feel like if I had stopped being so stubborn and listened to it sooner, that it would definitely be in my top 5. Like, I'm confident that it would be in my top 5 if I had listened to it sooner, because I love this album so much. So as I said, I listened to this in October, and it was right at the end before tracking for Spotify stopped, and they ended up being my most binged artist on Spotify for 2021 because I just couldn't stop listening to this album, or parts of this album in particular, especially when I was listening to 17s at the same time. I just love CBW's voice so much. It's so good, and they are like pop punk, rock, whatever you want to call them, which, as I've said before, I really enjoy, and I listen to that a lot outside of K-pop, so they are like right up my alley. I would say that, especially at the time that I was streaming 17's album quite heavily for the first couple weeks, with this album I was listening to the first 4 songs very heavily because I loved them so much, and I was just so obsessed with them that I like didn't want to listen to anything else from Umbra. But once I got a physical copy of the album and I played it in the car top to bottom the first time, I was like, oh, why do I not listen to the rest of this album? Like, it's so good. Like, what am I doing? And it forced me actually to listen to the rest of it a lot more. And I do have a hard time listening to Live Again because it's kind of sad and it makes me cry every time. So I don't like listening to that one. I like the song, but I don't like listening to it because I don't like crying. So, sorry, Colin. Not that you're watching, but yeah, I would just say that the songs just make me really happy and make me feel alive. somehow. I don't really know how to explain that. But yeah, I just love this album so much, and I'm very glad that I got into them. Mad at myself for not getting into them sooner, but I'm just excited to dive even deeper into their discography because they've been around for quite a while, and I just want to experience the rest of their songs and see what they've got. At number 7 is kind of a cheater situation. Like, it's 2 albums, so it's R and Lalisa, which are Rose and Lisa of Blackpink's solo albums that they released at different points of the year. I feel like it's kind of cheating to have 2 albums at the same spot when they're not like a repackage. I have a couple of those, but they are from the same group at least, and they're both single albums, so there's not much to work with there, and I also feel like I listen to them roughly the same amount, so it's fine. It's also my video, so I can do what I want, I guess. I would say that I binged these songs pretty heavily when they came out, but then after about a month or 2 of doing that, I kind of stopped reaching for them as much. Like, if they came out on my shuffles, I wasn't gonna like skip them or anything, but I wasn't like actively reaching for them and like trying to make them play, if that makes sense. All of these songs were in my top 100 songs on Spotify. Gone and On the Ground were pretty high up because they were released in March, February, oh my god, why am I forgetting? But they were released earlier on in the year than Lalisa and Money, so you know, and like once I get a physical copy of an album, I take it off of my Spotify and I stop listening to it there as much. So Lalisa and Money are like pretty far back on that list just because I got my album pretty fast after it came out, and I obviously took it off my Spotify at that point. So I do love the songs, I just don't reach for them as much anymore, which is why they are so far back. I feel so bad because like it's Blackpink and they're my top group, or my top girl group I should say, but yeah, I just don't reach for the songs very often. My number 6 album of the year is Bo Burnham's Inside soundtrack, which I wasn't gonna put this on there, but then when I really sat and thought about which albums I was listening to the most this year, his was definitely one of them. I listened to this a ton over the summer in particular because it came out in June, and I also found myself watching the special quite a lot. I think I watched it like 5 or 6 times over the summer, which like I don't normally watch things like that much. But you know, I've loved Bo Burnham for so long, like ever since 2016. You can't see it, but I do have a signed poster on my wall of his because I was just so into him when I discovered him. But I just love his voice. I think he's a great singer, and I appreciate like that he sings his jokes, I guess. It was definitely one of the albums that I played all the time over the summer in particular, as I said, whether that be on my Apple Music or on my mom's Spotify account, which definitely messed up her Spotify Wrapped. Oops. I would say that I reached for this album a lot because the lyrics kind of related to the state of the world a little bit too much, or maybe even also my state of mind sometimes, but I would definitely say that I don't listen to them as much now as I was over the summer, but I definitely binged this album over the summer quite a bit. Like, I was just listening to it all the time. So that is my number 6. So for my number 5 album, we have 2 albums together yet again, but it's a repackage this time, which is NCT Dream's Hot Sauce / Hello Future full albums. I loved this album so much when it came out. Like, I was obsessively listening to it top to bottom pretty much all the time for the first couple weeks after it came out. I would be listening to it like while I was working or on my breaks when I was messing around on my mom's computer, and I would say that most of this album is probably in her Spotify top 100 because of me, but it also got her into them a lot more, so that's a win for me personally. If you saw my reaction video for Hot Sauce, you know that I didn't really like that song that much at first, but I definitely very quickly changed my mind the more that I was listening to it, and I sing it all the time, like to this day, and I get excited when it comes on. Like I'll just have YouTube videos or music videos playing on my TV on YouTube, and it comes on and I just get so excited. It's a good song. Like I don't know why I didn't like it at first. Like what the heck. I would say that Diggity and Dive Into You were the songs that I was most excited to listen to on this album when it came out, because just from the track videos I was like, oh my god, these are so good already. Like I know I'm gonna love these, and I did, and I listened to those more than I listened to Hot Sauce, I've discovered, apparently, according to my Spotify Top 100. I would say other songs from that album that hold a special place in my heart and that I reach for quite a bit would be Irreplaceable, A&L, or All Night Long, and Rocket. I definitely reach for those a lot, particularly over the summer, whenever we were going anywhere, like to do essential shopping or something like that. I was always playing those because they're just very pretty, a couple of them, and then fun, for Rocket in particular. As for like the Hello Future repackage, I again didn't love Hello Future when I first heard it, but very quickly after doing my reaction video I ended up really loving it, and to this day I still watch that music video all the time. I think it's so cute, and it's a very like fresh and bright, kind of classically fresh and bright song that NCT Dream is kind of known for. That's kind of their thing within NCT, and it's a little less noisy. But yeah, I would say at this point in the year I don't reach for a lot of these songs from the album as much. I definitely still like them and get excited to hear them, but I kind of only reach for like 3 or 4 of them. So there's my number 5. My number 4 is a new face, which is Treasure, the First Step Treasure Effect, which came out in January of this year. I would say that I was very much into Treasure for the first few months of the year, especially because I started watching Treasure Map and learning the members' names and putting their names to faces, which I was struggling with when I started getting into them last year when they debuted. But yeah, learning all of the members like really got me into them, like as people, and then they released their full album. I kind of regret not doing a reaction video for My Treasure when it came out in January, because I loved that song like immediately when I heard it. I wasn't expecting it to be kind of like gentle and cutesy, because up until that point everything was kind of intense and in your face. So I wasn't expecting this like song to start off with the piano and like gentle vocals and everything, but I was just so obsessed. It's so catchy and it's so fun. It's just a feel-good kind of song. So I regret not capturing the excitement that I had listening to that song for the first time. And apparently I loved it so much that it was my most listened to song on Spotify this year. According to Spotify, I listened to it 71 times on Spotify, and I know I definitely listened to it a lot more once I got the physical copy of my album in like February or something like that. And I would say that I listened to the album pretty heavily in January to about the middle of March. I would say the only thing that's kind of meh about this album is that like majority of the songs pretty much are the ones that they had already released as their single albums last year. So it was mostly stuff that I've already heard before, so there was only like a few new songs, but I do really enjoy their music and I really like their voices quite a lot. Like I still reach for them sometimes now. But yeah, I just really love Treasure's stuff, and I am excited to see what they have in store for us the next time they have a comeback. My number 3 album spot is another repackaged situation and another new face, which is TXT, the Chaos Chapter Freeze / Fight or Escape. I would say that I've always been a very casual listener of TXT ever since they debuted. I never really paid that much attention to what they were doing besides if they had a comeback, but something changed this year. So when 0x1 I Know I Love You came out in May, I wasn't sure about it, but I was so fascinated by it that I couldn't stop listening to it. Like I didn't like it that much when I first heard it, but I was so fascinated and intrigued because it was a more like grungy kind of rock sound than anybody has ever done, I feel like, that I know of in K-pop. And it took me about a week, I would say, to finally come around and like the song. And the same thing happened with the album. Like I listened to it and I was like, yeah, I don't really like this. Like it's okay, but I don't like it. But I couldn't stop listening to it. something kept drawing me back into it, and I was like, no, like, you like this album, like, just give it some more time. And that is what I did, and here we are. I really, really love the album. This is an album that I definitely listen to a lot on my mom's Spotify account instead of my own, and also on Apple Music, along with Bo Burnham's album Over the Summer in particular. I just listened to it all the time, and I just got so obsessed with the songs once I realized that I do in fact like them. As I have said before, I really love the pop punk, rock, whatever you want to call it, genre, and I really like that they are dipping their toes into it, and I find it really cool because I feel like it's not a sound, or it wasn't a sound, that you would really hear in K-pop, especially with how grungy that they've gone compared to other groups. And especially with like the vocal tearing that they're doing in I Know I Love You and Loser Lover. And I honestly feel like they've kind of leaned into that genre the most out of any group. Like other groups like 17, they're doing rock concepts, but it's still like pretty gentle and like poppy, and this is very grungy to me anyway. Loser Lover was so exciting to me when I first heard it. Like, again, I didn't really like it that much when I first heard it, but the fact that they were dropping like multiple F-bombs in English just made me so excited, and I kind of lost it a little bit. I was like, oh my god, I was not expecting it. The Moa Diary Duba Du Wadi Wadi song, love it. Love it. It's always stuck in my head. I love the video. It's so cute. I'd say the only song from the album and like repackaged situation that I don't listen to is the remix of 0x1. I just don't like it. But that's kind of it. So that's why this is so high. But yeah, like I just listen to this album all the time. I reach for any performance videos that they've done for songs from this album all the time. I watch them literally every day, and I am definitely now getting really into them and their content and their universe, which I still do not understand. So if you are a MOA, please help me. I'm so confused. I've watched so many videos on it and I still don't get it, so yikes. My number 2 is yet again a new face, and somebody that I never thought would ever end up on a ranking at all, and it is ITZY's Guess Who album, which came out in April of this year, I think. Again, like I said, I never thought this would happen, because if you've watched my ITZY reactions, you know that their music is kind of hit or miss for me, and it takes me a while to like the title tracks most of the time, and I usually don't end up liking the B-sides, but this album is definitely an anomaly, I would say. I really liked Mafia in the Morning. I didn't love it at first, but it's definitely the ITZY title track that I loved the fastest, and it took me the least amount of time to get to the stage where I really loved it and was listening to it all the time. And I think it's probably because this song is a little bit darker for them, and there's not like that brightness that all of their other title tracks have. I also loved the use of the game of Mafia as inspiration slash using literal lines from the game as the lyrics. I know a lot of people didn't like that or like didn't get it, and it made them not like the song, but I thought it was so cheeky and kind of funny, especially because Mafia is played so often amongst K-pop groups. As I said before, I usually don't really care for their B-sides, but I always want to give them a try whenever they release an album, because who knows, I could end up loving them, and that is exactly what happened with this album, to my surprise. Like, I listened to the album not expecting to like anything besides Mafia in the Morning, and I loved every song, and it genuinely shocked me. I was like, who am I? Like, I know I never like ITZY's B-sides. Like, what happened? I would definitely say that I am still consistently reaching for these songs and getting excited when they play in my shuffles. So yeah, ITZY, number 2 spot. I'm kind of impressed. And then finally, my number 1 album is Stray Kids' Noisy. Are we surprised? If you are, why? But yes, I was just so obsessed with the Thunderous music video and Thunderous as the song as well, and I just watch it all the time to this day, and I would say that this is definitely one of my favorite music videos of the year. I would say that I was kind of nervous for this album because Go Live and In Life were just so good that I didn't know how their second full album was gonna be. I mean, I knew I was gonna love it, but I was still a little bit nervous, and from the track videos that they were releasing, I was not quite sure about some of them, but I very quickly changed my mind once I heard the full thing. And this is also embarrassing to admit, but I was so excited to listen to the album for the first time after watching the music video that I basically gave myself a headache because I was so excited for and by the songs. I freaked out so much that I had to give myself a break. Like I had to take a break before I listened to the unit songs because I'm pretty sure Red Lights was the first one, and I was like, I'm not doing great right now. Like I need a break before I experience that song. It's a little embarrassing, but it is the truth. That did happen. I definitely played the album top to bottom all the time. I only wanted to listen to it top to bottom, but then once I started playing it shuffled in with all of my other music, I was like actively searching for the songs. Like I wanted to hear basically everything anytime we went anywhere, so I was just like all the time reaching for those. And I would definitely say that this album is a no skip album for me. There are definitely some songs on there that I don't listen to as much as the others, but I wouldn't call them skips at all in any capacity. I love the just concept of the title being a wordplay on the word noisy, which is probably the #1 insult that antis have loved to throw around at Stray Kids or about Stray Kids. They're just like totally owning that insult, and they're like, yeah, we make noisy music and we do it well, so like here you go, like hello. And I just love the use of people's insults about them in Cheese, Thunders, and Domino especially, and those songs are definitely some of my favorites, and they're all right in a row. Love that. I would say my only gripe with the album, if I had to have one, is that the transition from Gone Away to Wolfgang is just so incredibly jarring because you're going from like crying, like a sad song, to barking. That to me, the vibe is weird, and I feel like mixtape A, O, whatever you want to call it, because it works both ways, should have gone first vibe-wise, but I know chronologically Wolfgang came out first, but it's still just such a weird experience, especially when you're listening to the album top to bottom. It's like, oh, like everything works really well, but then you get Gone Away and Wolfgang right next to each other. It's like, okay, that's weird. But that's the only gripe that I have with the album. Everything else, absolutely love. But yeah, there is my #1. Stray Kids, unsurprisingly, I feel like. That is my top 10 albums for 2021. As I said in the intro, this was really hard to make this ranking because I was just struggling to listen to full albums this year. But yes, also as I said in the beginning, please let me know what your favorite albums of the year were. I'm excited to see what other people were vibing with the most. And I said this last year at the end of my video, and I want to say it again, but thank you if you've gotten to this point. I know I ramble quite a lot in this video, but also in every video I ever do. But yeah, just thank you to anybody who has watched my videos, commented on them, liked them, or even subscribed to my channel. I do this channel for fun, so it makes me happy and always surprises me when people do comment or subscribe. It makes me happy that at least some people are enjoying my rambling. Just yeah, thank you guys so much. And yeah, I just hope that you all are doing well and you're staying safe and healthy and getting vaccinated and wearing your masks and everything. If you're not, please do those things. But yeah, that is all from me, and I will see you in my next video next year.